we get started, any citizen desiring to address the hospital should turn in a speaker card to the board secretary. If the citizen comment pertains to an item of the agenda, the comment will be heard early in this meeting. Otherwise, it will be heard towards the end. Speakers are limited their comments to 3 minutes. Vendors, suppliers, and other persons seeking hospital contracts awarded on a competitive basis are reminded that their ability to address the board may be restricted by the terms of an invitation for bid, request for proposal, or the other purchasing criteria. Lastly, the board has established a claims adjustment review panel comprised of representatives of the board, the medical staff, administration, and legal counsel to review and negotiate the settlement of claims. Accordingly, the board will not entertain comments or discuss or negotiate claims at this meeting. Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda before us and the orders of the day? Yes.
As part of your visit today, I would request that you follow a procedure.
Can you turn that on?
Notice. We followed our traditional procedure, and if we have less than 10 people making a comment, then we could extend the 3 minutes to 5 minutes.
I mean, we put 3 minutes on the.
I know, but in the past, what we've done is we've given 5 minutes when there's less than 10 speakers. I don't know if there's more than less than 10.
Are you moving that? Are you moving for that action right now? Is that a motion?
Well, I didn't make a motion. I just made a request to the chair at this point.
I think so long as if the common practice has not been more than 10. Right now we have 4. Obviously that might change as the meeting goes on.
So as long as we have less than 10.
Thank you.
Sure. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on December 17th, 2024? So second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have no board reports, so next on our agenda is David Mariner to present our Excel awards.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to report we have 2 Excel Award winners to acknowledge today, and I'd first like to invite Christina Glasser to come up and join us. Christina? So Christina Glasser is an RN in our SMH Infusion Center. She's worked at SMH since January of 2018 and described by our colleagues as a truly amazing and compassionate nurse, leader, and educator. Her knowledge and intuition are incredible. Chris always provides consistently high-quality care while adhering to the best practices and protocols in the most efficient way. She is willing to go that extra mile to make sure each patient's experience is exemplary. Chris also has a way of making all team members feel valued. As a charge nurse, she does an excellent job of encouraging staff to implement new and effective ways to improve patient care on the unit. She is a source of strength to everyone. She listens with attentiveness, and one coworker says she offers some of the wisest advice they've ever heard. Chris, thank you so much for everything you've done for our community, our hospital, our patients. We very much appreciate it.
I am truly honored to receive this award and to have so many great people write such complimentary statements. I came to SMH 7 years ago after 17 years with another hospital organization, hopeful for a culture centered around patient safety and valuing employees. I remember sitting in hospital orientation and listening to SMH mission statement and values. It was inspiring. 7 years have passed and my hopes are a reality. SMH upholds their mission statement and values by providing quality patient care and rewarding their employees. I am grateful to work for SMH, an organization reflecting the values that I too believe in. Thank you.
So I'm also honored today to get to announce our Excel Award winner for December, Jenny Sperry. Jenny, come on up. is our lead sonographer in cardiovascular diagnostics at the Dennis campus. A lot of words in the title. Right? Colleagues say that Jenny has demonstrated exceptional technical skills, leadership, and problem solving since she joined SMH back in 2016. She's laser focused on providing the best possible patient experience. Her commitment to continual improvement and her compassion help ensure we deliver top quality care. Jenny's vision and goals have been instrumental in many impressive accomplishments, including the accreditation of echo and vascular services. Her coworkers also describe her as a fantastic mentor with excellent listening skills. She makes herself available to help in whatever she's needed. Her willingness to offer her time and expertise is a testament to her dedication. Jenny, thank you for everything that you do for all our patients, community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate all of these kind words. It's a pleasure to be work here at SMH. My staff, they make it easy. They are constantly, they want to improve and do whatever they can to excel and take the best care that we can of our patients. That makes it so easy for me, as well as the leadership that I have here. I started here at main campus and then went to Venice, and the leadership I have out at Venice, they mentored me, and I just really appreciate all of that. Besides that, I love working at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. It's an honor to be here. So thank you.
Thank you both. Next on our agenda is our medical staff reports. Dr. Hurwitz.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members of the board, today I'm asking for a motion to approve the SMH Sarasota Rules and Regulations, the SMH Sarasota Organization Manual, as well as updates and amendments to the SMH Sarasota Cardiovascular Disease and Trauma Delineation Privileges, and the creation and updates to the following advanced practice professional delineation privileges, including cardiothoracic surgery, critical care and pulmonary medicine, general medicine, infusion center, ordering only, OBGYN privileges, palliative and hospice, surgery, and the transition of care and trauma services, as well as urology. All of these have been recommended by the SMH Sarasota Medical Executive Committee.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Dr. Karen?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Today I'm asking for a motion to approve the SMH Dennis Rules and Regulations, SMH Dennis Organizational Manual changes, updates and amendments to the SMH Dennis, including creation and updates to the following advanced practice professional delineation of general medicine, critical care, general surgery, urology, gynecology, palliative care, and hospice. All is recommended by the SMH Dennis Medical Executive Committee.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Patty, Secretary's report.
For February, Tuesday, February 20th, 2025, from 9 to 9:30 is the closed session. Hospital board meeting from 9:30 to 11 is the quality committee. Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, 9 to 10:30 finance committee, 10:30 to noon mission and planning committee, noon to 12:30 closed session hospital board meeting, 12:30 to 2 p.m. board lunch, issue and financial review, and 2 to 4 is the board meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And our treasurer's report, Kevin Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As part of the agenda, I move approval of the bad debts and charity care for the month ended December 31st, 2024 in the amount of $43,043,000.
Second, can I get a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on our agenda is our financial report with Jeff Lombacher.
Good afternoon. This is the financials through the first quarter of the fiscal year, so December 2025 fiscal year, but 12/31/2024 calendar year. You're going to advance it from here. All right, this is not me. Camera, you. You can go to the, or go back one, please, and another. Okay, sorry about that. This is total revenues for the system. So all of our entities combined. And on the left side will be month to date, on the right side will be year to date. So the month to date is just the month of December. You see the actual in the blue bars all the way to the left. Total revenues of $168,656,000 on a budget of $175,524,000. Moving to the right on a year-to-date basis, our year-to-date actuals are $497,471,000, so right under $500 million there for the quarter, and our year-to-date is $516,707,000 budget. Next page, thank you. Total expenses, again for the system, the bar all the way to the left is the month of December. The amount at the top is $156,410,000. Actual versus budget of $166,968,000. On a year-to-date basis, we're at $466,854,000 of expenses versus a budget of $490,662,000. Next slide. Thank you. So that results in operating income for the system. For the month of December, we were at right at $12.2 million of operating income versus a budget of $8.5 million, and that's an operating margin for the month of 7.3% versus a budget operating margin percent of 4.9%. On a year-to-date basis, to the right, blue bar, operating margin for the quarter, $30,617,000 versus a budget of right at $26 million. And that's an operating margin for the year of 6.2% actual on a budget of right at 5%. Moving to the next slide is our statistics. So this will be fiscal year to date, so the total quarter combined. And this is just for the hospitals. Average daily occupancy, the total is 907 for the quarter versus a budget of 932. And if you look down at the boxes at the bottom, it's an acute length of stay for the Sarasota campus at 4.54, and for the Venice campus, that acute length of stay is 3.82. To the right are admissions and observation cases combined. The actual for the quarter, 20,696 versus a budget of 20,569. You see the breakouts there, obviously, between the Sarasota campus and the Venice campus in the bar. Next slide. Surgery cases. We're at 8,206 surgery cases for the first 3 months versus a budget of 8,557. And for births, we're at 1,230 on a budget of 1,243. Next slide. Okay, outpatient registrations, 145,692 actual for the first 3 months versus a budget of 151,451. And for emergency care registrations, 44,655 actual versus a budget of 45,644. And then the last slide is our case mix index. And our actuals year to date are the 4 bars all the way to the right of this graph. The first blue bar graph is Sarasota Case Mix Index All. It was reported at 1.93. Our Medicare only Case Mix Index on the Sarasota campus was 2.04. The next 2 bars to the right is the Venice campus. The All Case Mix Index was 1.49. Medicare only is 1.51. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Brad has a question for you.
I just have a question. Our revenue was 168 using rating pages and all that, right?
Yes.
And write-off was 46, so 27%.
Well, those write-offs were reported at what we could call gross AR, which another way to look at that is I call it the rack rate. Charges versus net. There really is the net because it's a bad net. Right? So it's kind of apples and oranges with that comparison.
Okay.
Sure.
Still high.
Yeah, it's been trending up some. It has been trending up some. So, and some of that, if you remember, the Medicaid population stays down after the COVID relaxation.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Next on our agenda is the committee reports. I'm gonna pass the gavel to our Vice Chair, Sharon. The Governance and Effective Committee met earlier this month, and after approving the minutes of our last meeting, we renewed discussion regarding the board's philosophy on the CEO compensation. We heard a presentation from our independent third-party compensation firm. After further discussion of the best way to incentivize and retain top talent in the CEO role at Sarasota Memorial, the Governance Effective Committee recommended that Willis Towers Watson, the board's independent third-party firm, draft a written compensation philosophy consistent with the discussion of the Governance and Effective Committee. At this time, I move approval that the CEO compensation philosophy be drafted by Willis Towers Watson as recommended by and in accordance with the discussion at the Governance and Effectiveness meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. The Governance and Effectiveness Committee also had significant discussion on an amendment to the CEO's employment agreement to include transition services. I moved approval to amend the CEO's employment agreement to include transition services as recommended by the Governance and Effective Committee, and that I be authorized to execute such amendment on behalf of the board.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Take that gavel back. Next on our next committee meeting was Joint Finance and Audit Committee. Kevin Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the joint meeting of the Finance and Audit Committees met this morning at 9 a.m. The minutes of the September 24th, 2024 joint meeting and the Finance and Audit Committee meetings were approved. We then moved on to a presentation by KPMG to present the draft results of the audit of fiscal year 24 financial statements for the district. Todd Webster was presenting on behalf of the firm and stated that the audit went very well. Reported the auditors required communications, including significant audit areas, management judgments, and estimates used in preparation of the financial statements. And, it was just very, very complimentary about management and key staff in terms of the relationship and the working functionality there within the partnership. So appreciate the complimentary nature of his comments and the partnership. And based on that, I move acceptance of the fiscal year 24 Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System consolidated audited financial statements as presented by KPMG and as recommended by both the audit and finance committees.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda this morning, we heard from Maureen Pingree at Walters & Associates, who presented the draft results of the audit for the fiscal year 24 financial statements of the SMH Healthcare Retirement Plan. She, like Tom, stated that the audit went very well, reported that the auditors' required communications had been sent, and reported that there was a significant improvement in investment returns this year, and the plan's funded status moved up to 105% of its liabilities, up from 93% from last year. So the pension in a very good position for those involved with the plan. And based on that, I move acceptance of the fiscal year 24 audited financial statements of the SMH Healthcare Retirement Plan as presented by Walters & Associates and as recommended by both the audit and finance committees.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Following that on our agenda, we received an update from Protiviti, which is on our construction projects and audit results. And then we heard from Todd Nass, Executive Director of Audit Services, who provided an update on the internal audit projects. Part of that presentation was given by, of Protiviti as well on the construction project. So both updates on the construction projects and the internal audit were received by the joint committees. And finally on the agenda, Bobby Pettit, our controller, presented the updated recurring wire transfers and ACH and other payments policy for approval. Based on that discussion, I move approval of the updated policy for recurring wire transfers and ACH and other payments, and a list of authorized initiators and approvers therein to authorize staff to initiate and authorize those transactions as recommended by the Finance Committee.
So I get a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next on our agenda was our mission and planning committee, Sharon Peters.
Yes, the Mission and Planning Committee met this morning. There was one presentation given to the board committee, which was the Sarasota Memorial Hospital Northport presentation. Sharon Roush, president of SMH Venice, began by giving a recap of the November Mission and Planning meeting, where management presented details of the South Sarasota County market. Management also presented details regarding the development of 2 potential Northport Hospital sites. In the November Mission and Planning meeting, there was consensus by board members that the Sumter Boulevard site offered the best opportunity for initial development. However, the Welland Park site was still a priority for SMH. Mrs. Roush continued the presentation giving details on SMH Northport, including construction plans and position strategy. For the last portion of the presentation, Jeff Lidbacher, Chief Operating and Financial Officer, presented a financial analysis on the impact of opening SMH Northport. The Mission and Planning Committee discussed each of the 2 Northport site options and voted to recommend development of a new hospital on Sumter Boulevard. At this time, I move approval of the funding for the Sarasota Memorial Hospital Northport project located at Sumter Boulevard in an amount not to exceed $450 million as recommended by the Mission and Planning Committee.
Second.
All in favor, discussion?
You know, I was just gonna ask, I know we have some people here from Northport, Elena Ray, the EDC director and others, and just ask them to stand up and recognize her here and.
Okay.
Okay. You know, it's not every day that somebody drops the check. In their office. I think it's important that you came to receive it, so thank you for being here.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. Thank you so much.
And that concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Next on our agenda is our president's report from David Barringer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start, as I do. Thank you. Like I do each month, and look at our, start with our organizational report card. We have 5 different areas of areas that we take a look at each month, areas of concentration, that being service, people, quality, finance, and growth. I'll start with our service. We have our services, our likelihood of recommending, and we surveyed 10 different areas, and we're looking for greater than 75th percentile on that. We have both have an 8 out of 10 of those being at that, and we are currently at 9 out of 10, which should be detailed on that in a minute. In the people area, we have our new hire retention, which is our percent of regular part-time and full-time employees that have been hired during FY 2025, but are still employed as of the end of that fiscal year We had a goal of that being 83% or higher, and we are trending at 92.94%. In the area of quality, we look at our combined overall standardized infection rate. We set our goal at 0.8, given the national average of 1.0. We are already trying to do much better than that, and I'm happy to report we're doing much better than our goal of 0.48. In the finance area, I've already heard from our Chief Financial Officer, Jeff Limbacher, that we have our organizational finance, our operating margin is our goal, 5%. We are trending higher than that at 5.3%. And then finally, in the growth area, we have our strategic growth goals. We have two of them, both our inpatient admissions, including outpatient observations, being at 82,071 for the year. We are trending higher than that at 84,874. And in our outpatient registrations, we have a goal being at 1.224 million, and we are trending higher than that as well at 1.257 million. Looking a little bit deeper at our patient experience report card, just to orient you, the far left is the likelihood, which is the 10 areas that we surveyed on likelihood of recommending. The middle column is what our actual score is. The next over is the national median score, and then finally on the far right is the 75th percentile. So as I said a minute ago, we have 9 out of 10 of ours hitting the 75th percentile, 100 out of 10 meeting the national median score. I hope everyone has noticed a lot of signage around the organization and through the media that we are starting our 100th anniversary celebrating a century of care this year. So as Sarasota Memorial Centennial Year unfolds in 2025, we take great pride in honoring the dedication and diligence of the staff and community members who worked hard over the years to transform SMH into a nationally recognized health system today. I would invite everyone to go to our website and look at smh.com/100 and take a look at our celebration and timelines, and then just scroll through the history and see what we've come, how we've come over the years. Mainly in our lobby, we have a really nice presentation. Also happy to report that we opened our new freestanding emergency room in Lakewood Ranch on the corner of Lorraine and University. We are providing 24/7 care by board-certified emergency trained physicians and other specialty trained clinicians. We have 21 treatment rooms, a full suite of radiology services, and general lab testing and blood draws also. So far, our volumes have been a huge success. I just want to thank the entire team for pulling that off. SMH Venice opens its ER expansion. Sarasota Memorial Hospital in Venice also opened its much anticipated ER expansion last month to help meet the growing needs of our South County residents. The 90 million, 30,000 square foot expansion significantly increases the hospital's emergency care capacity with 61 exam rooms, up from the original 28, and upgraded imaging facilities. SMH Venice reached capacity shortly after it opened in 2021, which initiated this critical project. Added to the urgency were the closure of Short Point Venice Hospital in 2022 and Short Point being aborted this past year. We had the honor of welcoming our first baby in 2025. Sarasota Memorial welcomed 14 babies at our 2 hospitals January 1st. And the first baby of the new year, born was Isaiah, born at SMH Sarasota at 3:36 a.m., weighing in at 7.5 pounds. After a much needed rest, he and his parents had a New Year's photo shoot, received a car seat, gift basket, delivered by the Mother Baby team. Our health system delivered more than 4,500 babies in this past year, 2024. Our SMH lung team detects cancer at earlier and most treatable stages. Sarasota Memorial is proud to be recognized as a center of excellence for its early cancer detection initiatives. Over half of SMH lung cancer patients are diagnosed in the most treatable stage 1 or 2 stages 1 or 2 phases, more than double the state national average. During Lung Cancer Awareness Month in November, SMH was honored by EON's Center of Excellence Division for its comprehensive early detection efforts. SMH lung cancer screenings have nearly doubled since SMH expanded its detection program in 2019 and introduced the AM software. The latest video cast focuses on integrative care. Patients often face challenging side effects from essential treatments while being hospitalized. That's why the integrative care program at SMH is so important to enhancing care. In our latest HealthCast episode, Mariah Pierre, program coordinator for integrative care services, discusses holistic treatment options available at SMH and the significance of the health system's commitment to these approaches. I would just invite everyone to go on and listen to our podcasts that are available on pretty much all the, whether it's the Google system or the Apple iPod and so on. We always end up having physician lectures on various topics. This month we're focused on cardiac care. You can see a list of the different physicians and dates that they are speaking. And of course, if you can't read that, it's on our website. I would just invite you to go on, and these are free to the public. We do just ask you to RSVP so we just get a good head count going forward. And Madam Chair, that is the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There is nothing on our consent agenda, so we will move to public comments. As we comment, we will do 5 minutes for the speakers. Just to be civil with each other, I will read a name and then let you know who is next up. So, first up is John Capel, followed by Saul Costin.
Thank you. I'm from Sarasota. In the last election for hospital board, you described your opposition as out-of-town radicals. I'm one of the out-of-town radicals. I look like it, but I guess you think so. I've only lived here 2 years. I guess if I want to protect myself from an untested, unsafe, outright dangerous clot shot, I guess I'm a radical. I guess if I don't want to have a poison like remdesivir forcibly injected into me, I'm a radical. In the original clinical trial of remdesivir, more than half the patients died. And to my knowledge, you are still using this poison called remdesivir. In the last board election, you called the opposition candidates out-of-town radicals when they actually had lived for a combined 70 years in Sarasota. And you lied, which is nothing new for you when you implied that our medical freedom slate wanted to privatize SMH. Nothing could be further from the truth, but that's not what you told voters. You called yourself the health freedom defenders. You stole that phrase from our medical freedom candidates. You certainly didn't provide medical freedom during the pandemic when you blocked loved ones from coming to see their family. If you were dishonest during the campaign, you will be dishonest on the board. Apparently, the medical establishment in Sarasota spent about $500,000 to spend on the campaign for the open seats on the board. I didn't know the seats were available for purchase. During the pandemic, you treated the unvaccinated like second-class citizens at best. You forced remdesivir on patients to enrich the hospital at the expense of patients' health. Were you concerned about your patients' health and well-being, or about money coming in from the federal government? You targeted the unvaccinated. To those who resisted your tyrannical measures, like Dr. Gufanti, you tied him up like a prisoner in a prison camp. And after the Florida Surgeon General told Floridians not to take the bioweapon, also known as the COVID vaccine, you continued to promote it. And this was even after the VAERS database, the government database vaccine adverse event reporting system, showed more than 38,000 people died from the clot shots, also known as the COVID vaccine, and there were still documented more than 2.6 million adverse events documented on this government website. In case you haven't heard, President Trump has revoked Tony Mengele Fauci's government-paid security detail, and now he's talking about prosecuting him for crimes against humanity for his role in the pandemic. Through the PrEP Act, Fauci and the federal government incentivized the murder of innocent people through hospital protocols that were designed to kill. Did SMH participate in such evil actions? Will SMH also be prosecuted? I'm not sure that that's something you care about. COVID was premeditated. It was murder. It was an act of terrorism by a state against the world. For more than 50 years, the UK and the US government and researchers plan to use COVID to instill the most radical reform of society this generation has ever seen.
Thank you. Next up is Sal Kilstein, followed by Stephen Gavanti.
I'll skip the pleasantries I was going to start with. I'm Saul Kilstein from South Venice. This is the sort of misinformation my comments are directed to. I'm here to call for the appointment of a chief scientific policy officer and/or a scientific policy committee to review state and federal policies and to address misinformation and disinformation circulating in the community. SMH is no longer just a hospital. It's a system serving a rapidly growing service area. Equally important, it's a regional center for research and training. The safety and scientific basis for vaccine in the modern era was widely accepted until the discredited work of Andrew Wakefield raised questions about the MMR vaccine related to autism. Since then, and particularly since the COVID epidemic, trust in science has suffered, and the rise of the internet and the dark web accelerated misinformation and disinformation and reduced acceptance of widely accepted public health recommendation. We're now suffering from what the BBC labeled vaccine fatigue and complacency. Anti-vaccine groups like the so-called, I won't name it, but it was led for a while by RFK Jr., spent millions of dollars to try to suspend the distribution of current vaccines and quash vaccine mandates, including the long-tested and proven polio vaccine. Public health agencies are simply outmatched in a world of instantaneous information and disinformation through the social media. Bill Nye made the point recently that freedom of speech comes with extraordinary claims that provide no extraordinary evidence. While artificial intelligence holds much promise for medical research, AI also has the potential of exponentially expanding and accelerating the disinformation and misinformation as it builds upon those falsehoods. In Florida, in 2024, the Florida Department of Health reported 715 cases of pertussis, an 8-fold increase over the year before. Not surprisingly, the rate of Florida kindergartners with complete records from measles vaccine has also declined to 88% from the mid-90s just the year before. In 2019, there was an outbreak of measles in Samoa as a result of the misinformation campaign prompted by anti-vaccine activists, including RFK Jr. It eroded trust in vaccines and resulted in deaths of 83 people and thousands of preventable cases of measles. Whatever the outcome of Senate hearings, the confirmation of not only RFK Jr., but sub-cabinet members in federal CDC, FDA, and other sub-cabinet positions, it's incredibly important that this hospital system become the bulwark for scientific information emanating from these federal agencies. The Federal Department of Health and Human Services has been embargoed from issuing any healthcare information, statistical and otherwise, unless it's approved by political appointees of President Trump. We're in a very threatening environment, and as a hospital system of hundreds of millions of dollars, you have to invest in the credible safety of the information you provide to your physicians and researchers. And I beg you, take that investment seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stephen DeFonte, followed by Lisa Roulette.
As many of you know, I was hospitalized with COVID at SMH in August of 21. During that stay, I tried to get help for my 50-year-old roommate, Keith, who died 2 weeks later. Since then, I've come to the board and asked for an independent investigation of my case. I pointed out many issues that were not standard of care. At your last public meeting, the hospital's lawyer stated my case had been reviewed and nothing was found wrong. The hospital's lawyer has a duty to the hospital. I can offer you 3 compelling reasons to believe otherwise. First, in a meeting with Patty Mariah, Dr. Fiorica, and the hospital lawyer, I provided 2 witnesses that proves that there's a fabrication in my hospital record not admitted to in any of my reviews. Deliberately falsifying medical records is against the law. Second, during the same meeting, with documentation from my medical records that has been presented to the board, I showed that Dr. De Lucia had made a diagnosis with no history and no physical. No doctor can diagnose without seeing the patient. Third, the nurses refused to tell my roommate the name of our doctor, again documented in my hospital records by the headline of my Facebook post. I hope Vic has given you all a copy of that Facebook post. So, there are 4 nurses on the board. Each one knows that a patient has a right to his doctor's name. Intentional refusal is a violation of the law and subject to a $25,000 fine. The board can see that the hospital's review process is unreliable. If you need to call for a board-specific lawyer to be sure, then you have a duty to call for a board-specific lawyer. Any one of these reasons is compelling enough to create an independent panel of at least 2 doctors, one chosen by the patient's family and one by the hospital, but not dependent on the hospital. This panel will review my case and update other COVID cases that were brought to the board and present their findings to the board. The doctors are to be paid equally for their time. The cost will be limited to $100,000. The hospital can not ask to be paid for records request, and the records shall be sent in a scannable electronic format. Any doctor whose patients are being reviewed has the right but not the obligation to discuss his case with the panel doctor. The evidence is pretty clear. As Bonhoeffer said, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Please, for the sake of your profession that you have dedicated your life to, choose good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lisa Roulette.
Like a previous speaker, I also would like Sarasota Memorial to seek out expert guidance about vaccine safety concerns, but for a completely different reason. Because of genetic material found in one brand of the mRNA COVID vaccines that were undisclosed to regulators that should not be there and that federal regulators did not find. It was found by a private citizen. That casts tremendous doubt on the safety oversight of these vaccines. There are many basic assumptions that our Sarasota County community has about publicly elected hospital board members. They assume that if someone writes to you with specific, credible reasons about why they believe a quality review about a patient's care reached the wrong conclusion and that standard of care was not met, that you would care enough to meet with them and find out more. Assure them that solid quality reviews are very much a priority of yours, and then let them know either specifically why you are comfortable with the conclusion of the review, or that you will look into their specific concerns. But you and I all know that is actually not the case. Members of the community assume that if the experimental mRNA COVID vaccines had horrific federal regulatory oversight failures, if you became aware of this, that this might be a possibility, they assume you would care enough to find out more and alert the community if it were true. But of course, you and I know that this assumption does not appear to be valid either. The board majority has not been in touch with me regarding red flags I've brought to your attention about the quality review for Dr. DeFonte that have led me to conclude that his quality review reached the wrong conclusion. So we can walk through why you do or don't think my concerns have merit. And of course, you are all aware that the concerns that many community members have, and even the Florida Department of Health and the Florida State Surgeon General have shared about the experimental COVID vaccines. We all know that those concerns appear to have been just swept aside here by the majority of hospital board members and medical advisors alike, unexamined and unaddressed as far as I can tell. I've alerted you to specific national expert-supported black and white reasons that make it clear that there is no foundation of safety for the experimental mRNA COVID vaccines. It is now your moral obligation and your duty as hospital board members and medical advisors to look into the national expert safety concerns I've brought to your attention and determine if they are valid or not. When you talk to people in the community about why they're still getting these mRNA COVID vaccines, they say they trust the authorities. They believe that if there were a problem, those in position to look into safety concerns would do so. This includes you. That's what they expect, and they have a right to expect that. Especially because I believe some Sarasota Memorial patients have it noted on their chart that they intend to get the COVID vaccine. At the very least, we should all be able to expect that you would look into huge vaccine safety red flags, and if you found them to be valid, share them with doctors here and post the Florida Department of Health's notice on your website. You all have in your email inbox multiple examples of federal safety oversight horrors. On top of that, you learned that one of the vaccines says they don't have enough information to know if it's safe for pregnant women, and yet the CDC declares that it is. The genetic sequences in the mRNA COVID vaccines can enter heart cells and ovarian cells. One brand of vaccine contains dangerous genetic sequences that were not disclosed to regulators. They were discovered independently by genetic experts. And yet, despite these huge safety problems, plus many more that national experts are alerting us to, the CDC still pushes for babies to get injected with them starting at 6 months old, and says, in contradiction to the product insert for one vaccine I looked into, that they are safe for pregnant women. The foundation of this hospital board cannot be we see no evil and we hear no evil because we keep our eyes shut and our ears plugged. The foundation must be that we are informed, we care, and we protect. But it's not just about the mRNA COVID vaccines. That was one example. It's about the need the COVID era revealed to question federal guidance in general. Now here's where the rubber hits the road. What I would like to ask is that prior to adjourning today, you make a motion that calls for the creation of a report that examines if what I told you is true or what I told you is false. And if it turns out that what I told you is true, that the report recommend how you inform doctors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's it for our speakers. David Evans, any legal matters? Okay. I think next, actually, I've been notified we have no other business, so with that, I think we are adjourned.